Happy Monday. Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. I'm Roth, Cornet, and we're talking about Michael Jackson like you do. Yay. I mean, why not?
Chimona.
Yeah.
It's the only way to warm up.
He was the best. Dan Murrell is here.
Hello.
Spencer Gilbert.
Hey.
Joe Starr. And we're going to talk about the Guardians, who have released a statement about James Gunn, so strap in. We've also got MoviePass crash and burn over the weekend, which we were very anxious to talk about with you.
It's like a small start to the week. You know,
Yeah,
it's just like a really chill Monday.
Yeah.
I tried to start it out on a fun note, but here we go. Here's the actual stories. This is via THR. We don't make this up, guys. This is what comes to us. So Chris Pratt and his fellow Guardians have released an open letter in support of the ousted James Gunn. And here's what he said on his Instagram post. This is Chris Pratt. Although I don't support James Gunn's inappropriate jokes from years ago, he is a good man. I'd personally love to see him reinstated as a director of Volume 3, if you please. Read the following statement signed by our entire cast. You can go read the letter. Joe and I read it in the car drive over here. It's quite well written, and says
Roth read it to me while she was driving.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, that was. We don't recommend any of our patterns or habits in general, but I did do that.
Palm Clementif is a real John Hancock, isn't she?
Yes.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. Whoa, yeah. So here's a little expert. We fully support James Gunn. We were all shocked by his abrupt firing last week and have intentionally waited these 10 days to respond in order to think.
Can you bring the letter back up, actually, for a second?
But I'm just going to read this too.
Sean Gunn and I have the exact same signature. That is like, he could totally take my identity. That's nuts. Anyways, go on. It's a big S and a big G and then 2 lines.
I feel like, wouldn't you be the one to want to take his identity?
Nah.
I don't want to I mean, if it's between me and you, I would take your identity. But between you and Sean Gunn, I feel like you're going Sean Gunn.
I see pros and cons to both.
That's fair. Yeah. Here's what they said. We fully support James Gunn. We were all shocked by his abrupt firing last week and have intentionally waited these 10 days to respond in order to think, pray, listen, and discuss. In that time, we've been encouraged by the outpouring of support from fans and members of the media who wish to see James reinstated as director of Volume 3, as well as discouraged by those who so easily were duped into believing the many outlandish conspiracy theories around him. So Disney had fired Gunn on the 20th after these offensive tweets resurfaced that had been addressed a number of years ago. And now what I think they were trying to do, Dan and I were talking about this earlier, was prevent a public relations nightmare, and instead they have brought one in.
Yay.
With the firing. The other thing that I noticed in the letter is that they did sort of talk about the polarized political atmosphere that we're in and the sort of culture of shaming and the court of public opinion and how there's very little due process in the court of public opinion, and that their hope and largely is that we all sort of take a breath when any of this comes up on either side of the political spectrum, and sort of investigate and have the conversation, nuanced conversations like we were talking about last week. Certainly my hope. I thought it was good of them to not back away from that, because that's largely what motivated this. Joe?
Hi. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still frustrated that the conversation is whether or not James Gunn is a pedo. Like, I don't understand how that's the conversation and not any kind of context on the tweets, or that he already apologized for them, or who was trying to dig them up and shine a light on them. I'll double down on 2 things. One, I think they're stupid jokes. I think they're gross. I think they're dumb. I remember when Michael Ian Black was making them on Twitter, I unfollowed him, which made me feel sad because I really like the state and I really like Michael Ian Black, but sometimes comedians I like make jokes that I'm like, nah, and I unfollow and unsubscribe until they stop doing it. As a comic who spent a lot of time in open mics, you watch a lot of comedians go through their weird, dumb shock jock phase where they're like, here's my edgy racist comment or whatever, and I don't know, man. I don't know why they do it, whether they're actually racist or not, but they do it. And that kind of seems to me what James Gunn was doing. So I'll double down on the fact that, you know, sometimes people just go through these dumb phases where they're like, this is funny. I don't know why they think it's funny. I don't know why people thought dead baby jokes were funny in college, but you probably did. You probably made a few. You probably read a few. You probably shared a few. And then on the other side, the other end of it, you know, the the folks that resurfaced these, Mike Senovich and folks like that, are, I don't think they really care about any of this based on who they're targeting. Based on their own histories on Twitter, Mike Senovich has some really great things to say about sexual assault. If you really want to dig in on somebody who shouldn't be on Twitter anymore or probably shouldn't have a job anymore. I don't know. That's where I stand. I think that's the bigger conversation that needs to be had here is people looking at bigger picture and looking at context. You can agree that, wow, those weird pedo jokes are really, really gross and indefensible, and also look at why they were brought up, why it was sort of weaponized against folks like Gunn and Sarah Silverman, very, outspoken people on liberal Twitter. Like, there's a pattern. I don't know. Yeah, that's still my thought on it.
Spencer, do you think that the cast coming out in support, and they have individually before this, but they had not yet released sort of an open letter ostensibly to Disney this way. Do you think it'll have any impact, and will Disney change their mind?
I think you are more likely to see an all CGI and cast of the Guardians led by Roseanne than you are for Disney to admit they were wrong and rehire James Gunn after making a decision like that. I think Disney, in the past, they close ranks. They're a monolith. Their word is final, and they're the Death Star, man. They will absorb you. They will murder your whole planet, and they will march on and conquer. And they are not going to turn the ship around once they made a decision.
Look, no,
what, you think they're going to rehire James Gunn and go oopsies?
No, I don't. I certainly don't. And what they said in the letter was, we're looking forward to working with him again. And I think they pointedly meant we will still work with him and he will still work, even if Disney does not rehire them.
Yeah.
Somebody will, and I think it's an opportunity for another studio come in and hire him for a big franchise and make a public relations play for themselves in that way. I think that's an opportunity for somebody else to do. What do you think, Dan?
Again, this is so just trying to. This is the sort of discussion that should have been had before this was done. Like, because I think there's things that, for example, the thing, and I had even said this before, the fact that these resurfaced and he apologized for these tweets before. Well, he apologized for other remarks. They may not necessarily been these tweets, but a lot of people still like, oh, he's already apologized for all of this stuff. He didn't apologize for everything that surfaced before. And I feel like people kind of bandy that around. And I mean, this is the kind of things that you need to iron out before action is taken. Is like, that's the nuance, the discussion that you have is, okay, you apologized for this and we accepted that apology, but what about this? Okay, let's hash this out. This is all the stuff that should be done before anything happens. On the other side, it's kind of like Joe said, and I got some blowback from what I said last week when I said, like, people aren't really upset about this. I don't mean that anyone who's upset about this isn't being forthright. I mean people like the people that started this, the people that attacked him, don't care about any of this stuff. They're they're going after this guy that they don't like for political reasons. I'm not saying that anyone who is offended by this is pretending to be outraged. I said this last week.
They're offensive.
They're offensive. They are, and there's a whole other discussion about the lines in comedy. Are there lines in comedy? Some people say there are. Some people say they aren't. There aren't. Again, that's a discussion that has not been had. I think what they find themselves in now is a really weird position of, they have, on the one hand, as Specer said, they've made their decision and they are a multi-billion-dollar corporation about to become an even more multi-billion-dollar corporation who can't appear to be wishy-washy. They have to appear strong and decisive. At the same time now, you have the cast of one of your premier franchises with Avengers about to who knows what's going to happen with that cast go away. Maybe your premier Marvel franchise standing behind the filmmakers. So now you have a situation where if action is not taken, they're probably contractually forced to do this movie. Is that the position you want to put them in? Do you want an entire cast of people?
They're not going to not I don't think any member of the Guardians is going to want to quit that job either.
I don't
even
think
if
they
they
can.
could.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
they
But-
can't, but even if they could, they wouldn't, and they shouldn't be expected to.
But they're now publicly on the record
Yeah.
supporting James Gunn, which means that the narrative now around Guardians 3, if it weren't already, is now going to be all about James Gunn.
Yeah.
For the next 3 years, that's the only story that's going to be tied to James Gunn is you supported James Gunn. They didn't hire him back. What was it like on this movie? And now they're going to have to tiptoe around that.
But I think that Disney's focus is more on bottom line and like, look, we'll hire Taika Waititi, and in 3 years when this comes out, no one's going to care. Like, or not in a way that's going to prevent this movie from making bazillions of dollars.
Not in a way that's going to, I think that you're right in the sense that there's probably a lot of people, we're not going to get into this at the moment, but for example, there are people that watch Talking Dead that have no idea what happened with Chris Hardwick. So when he returns, it's just going to be like, oh, Talking Dead is back and there's Chris. If he wasn't there, then they would be alerted to what happened, because I think that we're living in a world where we're tracking this news, but not the average viewer, the average moviegoer isn't necessarily even aware of what happened with
Or know who James Gunn is. They're like, I like the raccoon.
Yeah, I like that raccoon so much.
I like that raccoon.
But I think to your point, Dan, Disney is focused on this Fox deal right now. 4,000 people are going to lose their jobs potentially in this merger. There's a lot that they have on their plate in terms of the public relations look of things, and they wanted this to go away. Didn't. But they wanted it to go away the way sort of Roseanne was a conversation for a couple of days and then went away. Well, to some degree.
To some people.
I mean, to some
people still having that conversation.
But this is interestingly, because now that you have somebody like Chris Pratt, who is very popular and very well known, and these actors coming out in support of James Gunn, I do think it puts them in an odd position moving forward.
This does mean more than, and no offense to the people who signed it, than hundreds of thousands of people signing a petition.
Yeah.
Is having the cast sign publicly.
Yeah.
For his rehiring.
I agree.
That's a huge deal. Or it's a bigger deal than that, but I still don't think it's going to amount to a hill of beans.
Yeah, I don't think it'll amount to a hill of beans too, but I think a lot of conversations between their PR reps and Disney are happening today.
But Disney's going to have to now, but again, you're right. They ignored a multi-$100,000 fan petition about Star Wars. They could easily ignore a multi-$100,000 for different reasons, but I'm just saying, they don't have to address fan petitions. They really don't. Now they have to address it again, and I think that's the main thing. Is they had hoped maybe that they could do this and it would be controversial and it would go away. Now you have the entire cast of this franchise standing squarely behind. So now Disney can't just wait for this to go away.
Yeah.
They're going to have to address it again, and this is probably exactly what they didn't want to do in the first place.
Well, I think to y'all's point, the Guardians 3, Guardians 4, and Guardians 5 will always have, no matter what steps get made, whether there's a 2% chance that James Gunn gets picked back up or Sean Gunn directs it or whatever, the narrative of around the Guardians franchise now will always be this. I don't know what Disney does to clean this up. As soon as a new director gets announced, the story won't be, oh, isn't it cool that XYZ director gets to take a shot at a Guardians movie? It will be XYZ director brought in to replace the pedophile joke guy. And
but I think to
I don't know
Roth's
how you
point,
clean it.
though, that we're coming at this from a insider, follows the daily Hollywood news perspective, when most people are like, oh, a new Guardians movie's coming
Tight.
out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or I mean, I remember the weekend before The Dark Knight Rises opened, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty excited to see Catwoman, or the weekend before I went to the screening, it was a couple of weeks from the movie coming out, and she was like, oh, there's a new Batman movie? Because she worked in prisons and had a whole entire thing going on and just didn't know, and was like, well, that's exciting. I might like to see that Catwoman. I don't know why she was in New York, so she didn't actually talk like that at all. We were not in Fargo.
There's a cat there?
Is that a cat?
Going on that
I
Gotham
like that
City?
Catwoman.
Is she still burglaring? In this one?
So they don't know. I mean, the average viewers, I think, are not as plugged into this type of thing. But the industry at large is. And that becomes a secondary question in terms of the perception of Disney in this industry, and if that does or does not have any impact on them with creators. And I don't know if it does or it doesn't.
Well, yeah, I don't either. And the other thing I want to push back on, because I've gotten personal pushback on it, and I know that we've gotten personal pushback on it from people that say, well, if you're so into forgiveness and letting a discussion happen, then why were you so reactive about things that happened in the Me Too movement and things that happened last year? And it's like, if you don't understand the difference between somebody making really awful, terrible, to many people, including myself, offensive jokes several years ago, and documented, provable cases of sexual harassment in the entertainment industry, and if you don't understand why there should be different discussions about those things, I don't know what to say at this point. Like, it's, if you legitimately don't know the difference between those things, then figure it out, because like that is just willfully painting things and far too broad of a brush. And that's what I mean when I say you need to have nuanced discussion. This thing that like every single thing should be treated exactly the same. That's not true, and it goes both ways. But that narrative seems to be taking hold of just like, oh well, now that it's somebody that this side likes, then there should be a discussion. But when this person did that, it's just like, if you don't understand the difference between two actions and circumstances, then I don't know what to say at this point.
Well, I said this last week, and I'll say it again. The difference is intention, first of all, in terms of what is the intent of the firing and what is the end result. And with something like a Harvey, which is like the premier example, the intention is to remove the person from being in a position where they can cause harm to others on a regular basis. If you believe, and directly, physically, and so that's one piece. But if you believe that what James Gunn did and said did cause harm to others because they were so, that's a question I'd like to challenge us with, in terms of what is the line between, there is a difference between what people do and what people say. And if this were like a regular employee of a company, and those types of tweets bubbled up, what do you think the appropriate action in that case would be?
Yeah. No,
I'm really asking us, like I'm challenging us.
Yeah,
to
I
think
mean,
about it,
I
because
almost-
we really
it depends
do,
on the industry.
because I have to agree. I do think there is a level that when you really like James Gunn and you really see that he was attacked for a politically motivated attack, you might feel differently about it. I
would feel differently, and again, nuance in the specifics of the situation is, I think, if they did bubble up out of nowhere, I would feel more comfortable with Disney's decision, because they're a family-friendly company. It's not what they stand for. They could fire him. But the fact that this already existed when they hired him and they already knew about it is what adds just the extra little twist of like, what? F you in my mind.
If Disney did not look into his Twitter history and read all of his tweets before hiring him, then they need to keep Fox's legal department, because that's something that any company needs to, come on. Like, let's be honest here. That's ridiculous to think that, we didn't know about it. Like, of course you did.
Yeah.
Every company does due diligence on every single person they
These are
hire.
being treated like contemporaneously with the development of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, they're not like so far in the past before you hired him that you couldn't check his Twitter once and be like, oh, that's gross.
I think it's perfectly reasonable and acceptable to be offended by content material like that, to the point that you would no longer want to support that artist or support that creator, and no longer want to support what they do. I absolutely get that. I make the Roth murders people jokes when you're not here, because they started with the spy thing, and I had a fan reach out and say, hey, some of my family got murdered. It feels weird to me. I think about that somewhere in the back of my head a lot. Don't make that joke anymore. I've moved on to you rob things.
I do.
You rob and burgle, and two nonviolent crimes.
Not unlike Catwoman.
So I get that, like, I think you grow and you evolve. And I think when, again, it wasn't all of the tweets, but when James Gunn had to do a joint statement, didn't have to, chose to do a joint statement with GLAAD, and did this a few years ago. I think that's when the conversation happened, when it was like, you know what, I agree. The shock jock thing, it's offensive, it hurts people, it doesn't really represent what I do, or how I feel, and you do a tone shift.
I guess I don't know if it is Disney, so it's a public relations issue, really. So it's not like it's just an isolated incident in a company, but it feels to me like the opportunity for growth and change is there if you can have a conversation. And it feels to me that if people have said things that are are not appropriate or desired, then that's the opportunity for conversation and growth and change, which he did.
Yeah, which I feel like James Gunn probably the moment that he got fired was like, we had this opportunity.
Yeah.
We did this conversation very publicly.
Versus if someone and again, I'm just going to use Harvey because that's the most clear example, versus if someone is blatantly doing crimes that are directly harmful to others, insidiously so. There's just a big difference between saying something offensive and that action, which you need to take that person away from the opportunity to continue to do that. And you can have a conversation. If somebody really does get it and change, then you are changing that behavior. That's the goal, right? Is the goal changing the behavior? Is it changing? Is it evolving? Or is the goal just burning things?
Well, the goal
Or is the goal wanting a merger to go smoothly? And
The goal here is wanting a merger to go
for
smoothly.
Disney.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The goal for the people that uncovered these was, we don't like this guy's opinions and we want to hurt him.
Yep.
Now, the conversation around that is certainly something for debate, but the motivation behind the action, I think, is pretty unquestionable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they said it specifically.
Yeah.
They literally were just like, we're collecting scalps now, which is really a whole other conversation. Anyway.
Well, Disney's going to continue to, as it grows into the first and maybe only we'll find out, Super Studio, how they kind of respond to things is going to be interesting to track, and how that changes the industry. Speaking of Disney, Star Wars, Carrie Fisher is set to return in episode 9. That was revealed. We took Friday off, so we're doing a little bit of catch up here. This is via THR. Lucasfilm revealed that not only Carrie Fisher, but also Mark Hamill will be returning in episode 9. J.J. Abrams will use unreleased footage of 2015's A Star Wars: A Force Awakens to put Leia in episode 9. He said, quote, "We desperately loved Carrie Fisher. Finding a truly satisfying conclusion to the Skywalker saga without her eluded us. We were never going to recast or use CG character. With the support and blessing of her daughter, Billie Lourd, we have found a way to honor Carrie's legacy and role as Leia in episode 9 by using unseen footage we shot together in episode 7. What do you guys think in terms of, does this surprise you, or does Luke coming back surprise you?
No.
Well, Carrie Fisher coming back surprises me because
Yeah.
they explicitly said she's not.
She's not,
So
yeah.
that was a bit of a surprise in that it completely contradicted what they had already said. But should it really be a shock that they're sort of making things up as they go at this point, for lack of a better word?
Well, because I know that, outline-wise, they've always said that, this episode was supposed to be her movie.
When was that?
I don't have the date on it,
no,
but
no.
that
I
was
remember
the
that
thing.
too, Joe. Yeah. It was like
Episode 7
Yeah,
era?
no. Episode. Yeah, it was around then. It was meant to be like episode 7 was focused on Han, episode 8 was focused on Luke, and episode 9 was supposed to focus on Leia, and then obviously we
Wow.
lost Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
I remember that as well.
Yeah, there was I think it was to kind of go back against people. They're like, why wasn't Leia in episode 7? It's like, don't worry, she's going to have a huge role in the last 2 movies. And then, unfortunately.
The Mark Hamill thing, this could be Force Ghost waving goodbye, Mark Hamill. It doesn't mean he's going to be the star of the last movie.
That's true.
He'll definitely have. I will predict he has dialogue.
Sure.
He'll be back as a Force Ghost. He'll Obi-Wan Kenobi it. But the Carrie Fisher thing is.
He'll sit on a log. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's true. Ghost sit. JT.
Sit by a fire, inevitably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Carrie Fisher thing is. I did kind of wonder since JJ took over, because to think that they're going to hew to the story ideas that they had a director ago, 2 years and a director ago, or even if Colin Trevorrow was even hired at that time, who knows? But I hope they do it well, because it can get a little weird sometimes when you're trying to just mash in what you have to something that you...
Yeah, this is a high-stakes maneuver. This is not going to
really
be easy to stick this landing, but I will completely withhold judgment on whether it works or not until we see it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know, rare, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to be, because even if obviously you can't just not address that suddenly Leia or Carrie Fisher aren't involved with the trilogy anymore. So in your head, you're like, I mean, is it just going to open with like, there's a Senate building and someone points at it and goes, Leia's in there getting ready for her speech. And then like the First Order blows it up. But even that's like, then all you're doing is thinking about Carrie Fisher and Leia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do it, because even watching Last Jedi for the first time, when they sucked her out into space, I was like, well, this is a nice goodbye to Princess Leia, I guess, and still sad and weird that it, I don't know how you smoothly address this without it just really pumping the brakes on the movie, and I don't know.
I don't know either, because we'll see, but it's happening, so we'll find out.
I'm glad they're not CGI Tarkening her.
Yes.
Very
uncomfortable. Like in Rogue One? Yeah, that was rough.
The Tarkin thing is
the Tarkin.
I defend Rogue One more than most people, and even I am just like, I can't defend that.
Bridge
That's
too
just
far.
creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy as fuck.
Just
really
kept him in the
creepy.
reflection. That
I
part
know,
looked cool.
the reflection was
a great idea.
So subtle.
It's just a moment. It didn't, and honestly, it's not like it added that much to the film. Like we really didn't need more than that.
It added a jump scare.
Yeah.
It could have been Imperial General
became
number
very
4.
unnerving.
Yeah.
And not unnerving in the way that we would want. But I can tell you how we're not going to see Star Wars Episode 9. It's with a MoviePass, because that thing is crashing and burning.
Ooh.
Oh, we got some tweets about this over the weekend when it. Okay, so Helios and did you tweet about this? Did you hear about this? Did you tweet? CNN and Deadline. Helios and Matheson, who's the parent company, said that it had a service outage on Thursday, and it could not afford to pay for the movie tickets, which is their entire job, is to pay for the movie tickets. So they borrowed $5 million
and then
cash.
sell them at below face value.
Exactly.
For profit.
For profit, exactly. It's like the internet gnomes. Trolls? What are they?
Underwear gnomes.
Underwear gnomes. $5 million. They borrowed $5 million on Friday, basically, to pay for its merchant and fulfillment processes. And consumers couldn't specifically purchase Mission Impossible Fallout tickets this weekend, because that's the one they wanted to see at AMC, Regal, and Cinemark due to, quote, technical difficulties. Exactly. And a similar thing happened around Red Sparrow. So basically, they hit these pricing, not only the pricing surges, but the inability to have them purchase tickets around big openings, which is the time when people want to use your service. So they weren't able to purchase them, and or the surge pricing caused them to be more expensive than just purchasing a regular ticket. So the whole thing is just
Fubar.
Sorry, I spit at you.
That's fine. I didn't hit.
Didn't
get any.
Kind of like went that way towards Billy though, so you're all
to Billy,
set.
and he's just like.
I mean, we've talked about MoviePass. We did a story on it when it was announced months ago. We did, and we were like, I don't think it works.
Yeah.
How is this going to work?
Here it is.
Yeah.
Cradle to grave, you guys. We covered it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got it. Like, are they declaring bankruptcy right now?
They're not declaring anything, and that's their problem.
Well, that's their problem.
I declare bankruptcy.
when they inevitably
Thanks, Billy.
must, what happens to the annual subscribers? Are they just out of money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're screwed. And they're not only are they screwed, they're screwed by a company that was fundamentally dishonest every step of the way. And this is what led me to actually cancel MoviePass. It's not just that they're going under. It's the fact that they refuse to acknowledge that anything, like even when it's in the news, they had to file an SEC thing saying, here's why we had an outage. They file an SEC thing saying, like, we didn't have any money and we borrowed $5 million. Like, that's in the news. And then this weekend, most people can't buy tickets at all. They say that e-ticketing works. Like you said, the surge pricing, which they said was going to be $2 with a pass once a month. That pass once a month never materialized, and the surge pricing is up to $8 in some. I know in LA here, up to $8. $8 in some place. It's just buying a ticket, basically. Yeah. And the company still this week was just like, there's a technical glitch, and we're really sorry for the technical glitch. It's like, you are so full of, pardon my French, bullshit.
Technically, we don't have money.
Technically, we
It's
don't
a
have
glitch.
money. And the fact that, like they have lied
So
and completely tried to pretend that everything is okay every step of the way, even when that BS claim about, like, we're fine, we have a $300 million line of credit. And every analyst that knows what money is in the world is like, no, you don't. You have $300 million in stock that no one is going to buy. lie because you're obviously going out of business. And they're like, no, we don't. We have a line of credit. And we're like, no, you just got called on that.
Yeah.
And people know that that's not true. And they still lie. They lied about the surge pricing. They lied about how much it was going to be. They lied about the fact that users could opt out of it. And even this weekend, they're saying it's a technical glitch. It's a technical outage. I look at the MoviePass thing on Reddit. The customer service was not working at all. Like, they just refuse to acknowledge that anything's wrong. And not only do they do that, they come out with a lie that makes them look good. It's like, these people are snakes. They are slimy snakes. And I'm sorry, I know you had Mitch Lowe right here on this set, but like, everything
Very
they have done
charming.
every step of the way is a sleazy salesman, Wall Street bullshit tactic of just like, we're going to take the money. We know this is an unsustainable model. They took a risk. They thought that they could get in between the consumer and the theater. They thought that theaters would come groveling to them and cut them in on concessions, and most theaters didn't. They said,
Yeah.
F you. And instead of acknowledging and adjusting their business model or raising their subscription price, they just tried to pretend like they could pull this off the whole way, and now they're crashing and burning, and they're still just going like, what are you looking at? Everything's fine. It's like,
Oh, hey, don't. No one's been more vocally against MoviePass than me. I have not. I never signed up for it. I did not believe in it. I thought it was bullshit, and I thought everything they were doing was bullshit, and none of it would lead to any good. So here we are. How do you feel?
I never signed up, but I really want to chime in and say that I hate bird scooters. Have you guys been seeing these things around?
Yeah, I wrote
God, these
bird
are-
scooters.
It's just
The
like
MoviePass of scooters.
This MoviePass of scooters. They're trying to get in between me and my sidewalk, and they're just. It looks like my entire neighborhood got overrun by a gang of negligent 9-year-olds who just all took their scooters and then just ditched them right on my driveway and then just ran out. It's bullshit. That's bullshit too. That's next. After MoviePass goes, coming for
Coming
you,
for
bird.
you.
Beverly Hills already did. They banned them.
Good.
Well done.
So goes the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so goes Beverly Hills. So goes the world.
Sorry, I never had MoviePass. It always seemed like a scam. So, and I.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's
and
not,
I live next to an
it's not-
ArcLight.
That's the thing, though. It wasn't even smart enough to be a scam. A scam requires you to do something intelligent. What they did was, we're going to get people a bunch of free shit at our cost and make a business out of it?
Yeah.
Which is
the only
completely-
thing,
I
the
was
only
waiting-
thing that they did do successfully is force AMC to come up with its own counter program, and which I signed up for,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
great. I have it.
basically
It's
the
wonderful.
AMC Premier Special Gold Star You Rock like stubs program.
That
which-
frustrating thing where the people get to go get their concessions before you.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get the special line and you get to see
Screw
3
you,
movies
normie.
a week. Yeah, exactly. I think it's great, but I do wonder this, Joe, are they changing? Is AMC now going to like, I just signed up for you for 3 months, AMC. So are they going to change
yeah,
that
I mean, will
program
someone
now?
buy? Will Pacific or ArcLight or someone just buy the technology and the user base and just rebrand it and set the prices?
I don't know. I mean, that's an excellent question.
Will AMC buy bird scooters so that you can take
Yes.
a scooter to your movie?
Finally.
AMC,
These are
as
all
someone who
good
has taken a
questions.
bird scooter to
bird
an AMC
scooter.
theater, that's a true story. It's not the worst idea in the world, but the AMC thing
I'm
makes
walking
sense.
here.
I mean, maybe if that's the good thing that comes out of MoviePass is like, yes, you wasted hundreds of millions of dollars of investors and stockholders' money, but that would kind of be the irony of all this is MoviePass's mortal foe, AMC, the one theater chain that they hated more than anyone in the world, they may have actually set the
Forced.
stage for them
Yeah.
to succeed at the business model that
Subscription,
they
yeah.
themselves are unable to pull off. Because the AMC A-list, which I have, is everything MoviePass isn't. You can book ahead of time.
Yeah.
You can do premium movies. You get 3 a week. It's fewer movies, but also it makes sense because
It's fewer
you're
movies,
going
but
to
it's a realistic amount of movies.
Don't
they
we
can
have
do in a
yeah.
week.
Don't we have a lot of European fans that keep tweeting us like, we've got this thing that's been working
do,
for 50
yeah.
years. I don't see what the hell the problem is.
yeah.
MoviePass. The MoviePass.
The MoviePass.
I think this
can't remember what it's
subtitle for
called.
the United States is "We make things harder." So there's your answer. Like, why doesn't it work here? I mean, I don't know how it does work. I mean, even for the AMC thing, I was thinking about that this weekend because you saw 3 this weekend.
I did.
Eventually, it's going to be the same issue. They still have to pay the studios for those tickets.
But the difference is that I'm paying AMC the money, so they're getting the money directly. That guarantees that I go to their theater. I am paying them for concessions. They are getting the extra money
That's
that
what
I
their
spend on
margins Did you get
concessions. And so, yeah, of
concessions?
course, it's the movie. So it's like they're getting the
I
extra
don't
money
get
movie.
concessions.
I gotta get them.
But
Smash
MoviePass
Fish.
isn't
I got me some
making
gummies in my purse.
700%.
I'm not paying $6 for a water.
Yeah, but like a
I don't get
$6
consent.
water
Like I'm
keeps
their
AMC in
worst
business.
but
Let
that's my
me ask,
point.
though.
I'm their worst customer because I'm going to go 3 times and I'm not getting a water.
But
I'm not getting a water.
Do you bring your own, Roth? Be honest.
I
Do you bring
don't
your
know
own?
that that's a good thing for me
Hey,
to
Roth,
talk about
can
right
we?
now.
Yeah, can we be chill so my bags don't get searched next time? I go?
Like, I used to bring in full meals.
I fully intend to see Mission Impossible with 6
pasta.
McGriddles.
I used to,
Oh, you're that person.
I used to bring in a full-on eggplant rigatoni
Oh my
situation.
God, there's nothing worse than popcorn mixed with the smell of actual
Eggplant
food.
rigatoni.
Oh God.
What do you think the margins are on
Smoked
popcorn?
mozzarella.
Dude,
Was
margins
good.
7,000%?
Yeah, 7 million
Jesus.
percent.
Popcorn is
Do you know
Like
what
the amount of
margin
kernels
is
to
on-
make this much popcorn.
The margin on a soda is like 500%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
insane
amazing.
on a fountain.
I just
soda.
want to see Mitch and MoviePass show up on Shark Tank. That's how I want this story to end.
I think you'll see him going like full Coney guy on the San Diego sidewalk before you see him back on TV.
Diego.
look into
I buy concessions sometimes.
look into Farnsworth
Come
and
on.
how many
No raisinets? No goobers?
Oh, it's too overpriced.
M&Ms?
It's too overpriced. I resent it too much.
Fair.
I'll get a cup of water. Oh, this has been cheap
You're
talk.
gonna put Sprite in it, aren't you?
How to cheap it? I'm curious if
Ross
AMC
head under the popcorn butter machine.
It's free. I just can't wait for them to literally, for Mitch Lowe to be standing outside of the MoviePass headquarters with a sign on it that says "out of business," and he's like, we're really excited about the way that we're
Yeah.
energizing and creating a new dialogue for
Yeah.
moviegoers. This is the future of the entertainment. They're like bulldozing the building
Yeah.
behind him. He's just like, "What? We're a market disruptor.
Someone's
There's
taking
gonna
his
be
suit
bumps
jacket
along the
off.
road." Yeah, it's like they're taking.
But they were a market disruptor. I mean, they did force AMC to do this, and that's what now my eye is on. Does AMC maintain this deal, or do they change it over?
Their new
time?
That was
CEO
Mitch
is the,
Lowe's plan all along, was
Yeah.
to
Mitch Lowe's been replaced by the "This is fine" dog. Just drinking the coffee while the room burns down.
Congratulations, Mitch Lowe. At a cost of like $500 million, you got AMC to start the plan that you didn't want them to start in the first place. So, good job.
Good show, guys. Watch Charting with Dan later today. We're going to talk about that box office.
That Mission Impossible, which I see some people are trying to spin as a failure, which is weird. So we're going to talk about that because it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think people are doing it because I've seen some stories that want to sell the narrative that Mission Impossible underperformed because of the MoviePass thing, which is complete
Nonsense.
bullshit. So we're going to talk about that today on Starting with Dan.
All right. Well, we'll be talking about MoviePass more later today. Honest trailer commentaries, and then most distracting movie mistakes. Very funny on the news channel. You can watch all of that now. Just plug in some earphones, pretend you're doing your TPS reports, and watch our stuff.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.